In December 1944, when the Baltic Sea froze under sheets of black ice, the German Navy began testing something it never officially built. They called it Projekt Nachtmeer, a submarine so advanced that even within the Kriegsmarine, its existence was whispered like a rumor. It wasn't listed in any shipyard logbook, nor did it bear a number like the other U-boats. On the outside, it resembled a Type 21, but its steel was darker, the hull seamless, and inside, something was different. Only 40 men were chosen. Each signed a document forbidding them from ever speaking of the mission. Most believed they were part of a high-priority reconnaissance test. Only their captain, Kapitänleutnant Otto Weber, and chief engineer Friedrich Hahn knew the truth, that Nachtmeer was built to disappear. It was assembled not in Kiel or Hamburg, but deep beneath the Nordhausen Mountains, inside a forgotten tunnel network the Allies never knew existed. Dozens of slave laborers had died digging those chambers, their bodies buried in the walls of the submarine pens. When the last rivet was sealed, the workers were executed, and the tunnels collapsed behind them. Nachtmeer's design was said to have come from intercepted British research, combined with radical ideas from a young German physicist named Dr. Karl von Reiner. He claimed to have found a way to bend sonar waves, making the submarine invisible to both radar and sound. Using magnetic resonance plating and a strange liquid-filled hull lining, the sub could absorb detection signals and vanish into the depths. During the first trial, in the fjords near Gotenhafen, observers on shore reported seeing the submarine dive, but no bubbles surfaced. The sonar ping returned only silence. Then, after 10 minutes, Nachtmeer reappeared several kilometers away, rising like a shadow from the black water. It was as if the sea itself had shifted to hide it. Weber was proud, yet disturbed. The hum of the engines was unlike any other. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Hahn said the new propulsion core, a combination of electric turbines and a magnetic drive, interacted with Earth's field in strange ways. The compasses spun wildly when the sub submerged, and crewmen complained of nausea, ringing ears, and blurred vision. One sailor swore he heard whispering through the hull, like distant voices calling from outside the metal. The next morning, Weber wrote in his log, "We may have built something that listens back." On December 23rd, Nachtmeer left port under heavy snow. Officially, it didn't exist. No record, no manifest, no departure report. Its orders were to patrol the Baltic near Bornholm Island, gather data on Allied convoy routes, and return by New Year's Eve. The weather worsened as they descended. Visibility was nearly zero. Sonar contact flickered, then died. The magnetic readings surged erratically. Hahn adjusted the stabilizers, sweat beading on his forehead. He said, "The sea is not stable tonight. It feels charged." At 0113, the first anomaly occurred. The crew noticed a faint luminescence along the hull, a cold blue glow seeping through the steel. The men thought it was bioluminescent algae until the glow began moving against the current. Weber ordered a surface check, but the periscope showed nothing, only darkness and static. They submerged again. That's when they picked up something, a faint ping from another vessel. A British destroyer, perhaps. Hahn activated the resonance plating, and Nachtmeer's signature vanished from detection. The destroyer's sonar passed over them, and then, inexplicably, stopped. Silence. Then came a second ping, but this time, it came from below. No vessel existed beneath them. Hahn stared at his instruments. "Impossible," he muttered. "The seafloor is 800 meters down." The ping grew louder, sharper. until it wasn't sound anymore, but vibration. The entire hull began to tremble, lights flickering, dials spinning. The crew fell to the floor as a deep rumble echoed through the submarine. Moments later, everything stopped. The gauges reset, the sonar was blank. Weber called the control room. "Report depth." "Depth unknown," came the reply. "What do you mean, unknown?" "The instruments, they're reading 0, sir. We're either on the surface or nowhere." Hahn checked the chronometer. It was still ticking, but slower than before. "Time's off," he whispered, "like the ship's moving differently." They rose to periscope depth, but when Weber looked, he didn't see night or waves or moonlight. He saw a faint green haze, like light diffused through thick fog, and shadows moving in it. Shapes of ships, maybe, but translucent, like reflections. One of them looked German, a U-boat, but decades older, its hull rusted and broken. He blinked. The vision dissolved. The crew didn't sleep that night. Metal creaked as if something brushed against the hull. Hahn swore he heard knocking from outside in a slow rhythm, like Morse code. They recorded it and tried translating. R-U-N. Run. By dawn, morale was breaking. One sailor tried to open the torpedo hatch, claiming, "The sea is calling us." They restrained him, but his eyes were wide, pupils dilated, veins dark under the skin. He whispered, "It's not water anymore. It's listening." Hahn begged Weber to return to port. Weber refused. "We've come too far. We finished the mission." At 08:40 a.m., they detected another anomaly, a signal, faint but structured. Hahn described it as a frequency echoing their own resonance pattern. He said, "It's like something's mimicking us." They tried changing frequency, but the echo followed. Every pulse they sent, the ocean sent one back, delayed by exactly 3 seconds. Then, for a moment, the sound system came alive, a hiss of static, followed by a voice. Not English, not Russian, not German. Something lower, distorted, mechanical, speaking in rhythmic patterns that resembled speech but weren't. Hahn froze. He said, "It's using our transmission line." The lights flickered again. Temperature dropped rapidly, frost forming on the instruments. The air felt heavy, metallic. A smell of ozone filled the compartments. Weber ordered ballast adjustment to surface. The engines groaned, then roared. But instead of rising, the depth gauge spun downward. 200 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters. Then the reading stopped entirely. The radio crackled one last time. Weber shouted into it, "This is Nachtmeer, to command, respond!" But only static came back, followed by faint laughter. At 09:15, all contact with Projekt Nachtmeer was lost. The German Navy launched a search operation from Gotenhofen 3 days later. They found nothing. No debris, no oil slicks, not even bubbles. The Baltic was calm, silent, as if it had swallowed the entire vessel whole. Months later, after the war ended, a Soviet trawler near the same area reported strange readings, a faint sonar echo resembling a U-boat signature, hundreds of meters below the seafloor. Divers sent down found nothing but sand and silence. Yet when they resurfaced, one diver swore he saw a dark shape below, faintly glowing blue in the murk, moving slowly north. He never dove again. Years later, in 1956, a British research vessel mapping the Baltic Trench picked up a strange intermittent signal on an old frequency, a pattern repeating every 3 seconds. Analysts dismissed it as background noise, but a naval historian, reading the archived transmission logs, noticed something chilling. The signal matched the Morse pattern recorded from Nachtmeer's final hours. When played at slowed speed, it sounded like knocking. The historian wrote one line in his report. Somewhere in the Baltic, something is still knocking back.
In the autumn of 1976, 32 years after Projekt Nachtmeer vanished, the Baltic Sea was once again restless. Off the coast of Bornholm, a Soviet oceanographic research vessel, Vostok 7, was mapping the seabed using new, low-frequency sonar arrays. Their mission was simple: locate NATO communication cables running through the Baltic Trench. But on the third night, their instruments picked up something no one could explain. At precisely 02:47, the sonar showed a shape, long, sleek, and symmetrical, buried beneath 200 meters of sediment. At first, the crew believed it was a shipwreck, but the outline was too perfect, the curves too precise. And then the image flickered. The object's shadow seemed to move. Captain Sergei Voronin ordered another scan. The signal returned, slightly shifted east. Probably an echo, one technician said, but Voronin frowned. Echoes didn't move against current. By morning, Moscow had been informed. Within days, orders arrived. Proceed to investigate. Record. Do not disturb. But on the Baltic, nothing stayed undisturbed for long. They deployed a team of divers led by Lieutenant Pavel Gromov, a former naval engineer. The water was freezing, visibility near zero. As Gromov descended, the light from his helmet lamp cut through the green gloom, and then he saw it. A dark curve, massive, smooth, not rusted like other wrecks. The hull was covered in a faint layer of silt, but no corrosion. He brushed it gently. Beneath the grime, the metal felt almost warm. He pressed his gloved hand to it, and for a moment, he thought he heard something. A low vibration, like a heartbeat. When he surfaced, his breathing was ragged. "It's not a wreck," he said quietly. "It's waiting." Voronin frowned. "You mean it's intact?" Gromov nodded. "Perfectly, like it was built yesterday." The next day, they lowered a submersible camera. The images came in grainy but clear. A German U-boat hull, but with design features none of them recognized. No rivets, no numbering. A seamless black shell, with markings burned away. Along the conning tower, faint letters were visible. NACH, then corrosion. Hans' creation had a name once more. The deeper they scanned, the stranger it became. Their sonar began returning false depths, and the compass inside the submersible spun wildly. Instruments overheated and lights flickered, even though power levels were stable. Voronin decided to anchor above the site for the night. But as darkness fell, the ocean grew unnaturally still. Not a wave touched the hull. The sea was flat, silent. The air smelled faintly metallic. At 2300, the communications officer called for the captain. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission." "From where?" "Unknown. Frequencies outdated, from the 1940s band." Static hissed across the speakers, followed by faint knocking, 3 seconds apart. Everyone froze. Gromov whispered, "That's the same pattern we heard on the recorder today, from the hull." The knocking grew louder, then changed rhythm, fast, desperate. The translator on board wrote the sequence down. After an hour, he looked pale. "It's Morse code," he said softly. "It says Help. Still here. Voronin ordered silence across the deck. The men listened. The knocking continued, rhythmic, precise. No natural source could produce it. The captain radioed Moscow, but before the message went through, the transmission line shorted. A blinding surge of static filled the room, and the lights went out. When power returned, all systems had reset to 0000 hours. The radio log showed no record of the transmission. By morning, 2 crewmen were missing. Their bunk beds were empty, sheets soaked in salt water, though no doors had been opened. The only clue, wet footprints leading to the radio room and stopping at the center of the floor. Gromov insisted they leave. Voronin refused. He said, "The party wants proof. We find the hatch and bring something back." On the 3rd dive, they succeeded. Near the base of the hull, Gromov found a circular airlock sealed by magnetic clamps. When he touched it, it hummed faintly. Not dead, but dormant. Against orders, he attached a cutting torch. The moment the flame touched metal, the torch went out. Then the hatch opened on its own. A rush of dark water escaped, followed by a faint blue glow that spread through the sea like fog. Gromov's camera feed turned to static. The ship above went silent. All channels filled with a low hum, a single note that made the crew's teeth ache. 2 minutes later, Gromov's voice came through the radio. Calm, but wrong. "It's beautiful down here," he said. "They're not dead. They're waiting for us." Then the line cut. Voronin ordered immediate retrieval, but the cable was slack. When they reeled it up, the line ended in nothing, just a torn coupling, edges fused by heat. That night, the Vostok 7 began drifting. Engines offline, navigation dead. The sea glowed faintly beneath them, pulses of light moving slowly below the surface. The men watched from the deck as the glow formed a shape, long, curved, alive. One sailor whispered, "It's rising." The water erupted in a column of white spray. Metal screamed as something massive brushed the ship's hull. Alarms blared, but the crew froze, staring into the depths. The glow faded, and then returned, farther away, moving north. By dawn, the Baltic was calm again. The Vostok 7 limped back to port, its crew silent. Gromov's body was never found. The Soviet Navy classified all data from the mission. Officially, the operation never happened. But years later, declassified fragments revealed strange medical reports. Men aging rapidly, hair turning white within days, skin showing electrical burns, though no current had been present. Voronin retired soon after, refusing interviews. In his final years, he kept a small radio by his bed, tuned always to an unused frequency. When asked why, he simply said, "So I can hear them knocking." He died in 1983. The radio was still on. In 1998, a German documentary team studying Cold War wrecks received permission to access Soviet naval archives. Among the classified photos was a sonar image marked "Confidential, 1976, Bornholm Sector." The image showed a U-boat-shaped object at 210 meters depth, but the timestamp read 000000, same as the corrupted Soviet logs. When the filmmakers enhanced the photo, they noticed something the Soviets had missed. Along the hull, faint white streaks, the outline of human figures pressed against the glass. faces pale, eyes open. Experts called it an optical illusion, but one of the editors, zooming in, swore she saw condensation, breath marks forming on the inside of the glass. Since then, divers occasionally report strange compass failures in the Bornholm Trench. Their instruments go dead, and sonar briefly picks up faint rhythmic sounds, 3 seconds apart. Some describe hearing whispers through the hulls of their submersibles, voices speaking in German. And sometimes, when they return to the surface, their watches are hours off. No government acknowledges the existence of Projekt Nachtmeer. The records were erased after the war, and the surviving engineers disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances. But the Baltic still remembers. Every few years, someone claims to see a faint blue light beneath the water, moving slowly toward the north. Too deep for any modern submarine, too steady for a natural phenomenon. In 2012, during a